Hi, I'm Shane Coolball, and this is Coffee with Candidates. I'm here with my co-host Samantha Fulham, who is already drinking her coffee.
Absolutely.
And we're here for our guest today, Judy Higgins, who is running for Pennsylvania Senate for District 28. So our first question is, what does being a Democrat mean to you? It's something we ask everybody because it's interesting to hear what it means to other people. So what does it mean to you?
Being a Democrat is part of my humanity. I was raised a Democrat. I remember my mother and my aunt sitting around debating how we could vote for, we, collectively the family, vote for a Roman Catholic. And of course they were talking about John Kennedy, because the Catholics owe their main allegiance, if you will, to the Catholic Church. And I remember that being a raging debate for a long time, but they ultimately did vote for Kennedy because he represented the things that we believed in, which is families and the power of the individual to be successful because they're putting in the work and the effort that they need to. This current administration makes me very uncomfortable. I think as a woman and somebody who's getting older and hopefully will continue to get older, I really don't like what I see being done to the country, and I think we really need to take back the legislation and the legislature and move on to the Democratic Party again.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Of course. I am a tested and proven fiscal conservative. I was on a school board for 17 years, and I was the one who kept saying no to the polyturf fields because we hadn't addressed the issues of education.
Yeah.
All my life I've been pretty much a social liberal but a fiscal conservative, so it was very easy for me to do what I needed to do, I felt, for the community. I've lived pretty much as a feminist for as long as I can remember. My mother taught me very early that what you put your mind to shouldn't be decided by whether you're male or female.
Yeah.
And I've been married to a wonderful partner for 30 years who has supported all that and been an equal to me, and I couldn't have asked for a better partner in all that. I'm a mother of 3 grown sons who are also very supportive of the women in their lives. I have 2 wonderful, intelligent, and highly talented daughters-in-law, and of course 3 fabulous grandchildren that every grandmother will talk about.
Yep.
I guess the thing is, I've always been passionate about giving back to the community. I started very young doing the door-to-door stuff that used to exist with the American Red Cross and the Heart Association and all those different charitable organizations. It needed to be done, and my mother said, well, why not you?
Yeah.
And that's kind of the way it's always been. Why not me? We had, you know, some discussions when I was growing up about what I wanted to be when I grew up, and I'm still not sure what I want to be when I grow up, clearly.
If you're anything like us, you can't just be one thing. You know what I mean?
Oh,
It's ever changing.
Yeah.
that's been proven in spades.
The plan is fluid.
Yeah.
At all times.
Yes. One must be flexible and
Absolutely.
nimble.
Yes.
So I knew I didn't want to be a secretary. That was sort of the running joke in the family, and I really wasn't interested in going into the medical field. And I toyed with the idea of being an English teacher, but I realized I was more passionate about than the high school students that I was working with, so passed on that one. But I ultimately got my bachelor's degree in public administration. I spent 10 years getting it, so I'm one of those people that says if you want it badly enough and it's important to you, then just keep on. It doesn't matter if you have a few side trips and sidebars, keep on.
Yeah.
Because it's your dream, it's your passion, and if you don't care enough, why would anybody support you?
Yeah.
I lost both of my parents before I completed it, but their influence clearly was a lot of why I kept going. I then ended up getting a master's degree in human resources at the University of Houston, and I have a doctorate from Penn State in adult education, which I finished in 2005. That was another one that everybody did fairly quickly, and I didn't because I took some side trips through cancer and a few other things. So now I'm an adjunct at Penn State. I teach business and management, and I have a very small business that I'm very proud of. We cast and make pewter, so like this is some of the pieces that I have.
Oh, that's cool.
So One of the things that we discovered when we started doing this is there's a lot of small businesses that would love to be able to increase their brand visibility, but unless they rely on China and the prices that come from China, they don't have an option.
Yeah.
So we sort of started filling in that niche, and I provide jewelry to the York Revolution, the Lancaster Barnstormers, Mudhook. I also work with not-for-profits. I did the fundraiser for the Christmas ornaments for the York SPCA, and I'm currently working with the Wolf Rescue out in Lidditz.
Oh, cool.
So it's really been very cool and very rewarding, because when you help local businesses and local organizations, it helps all of the community, not just them. And I've also, of course, supported the Breast Cancer Association. I raised $3,000 to do the 60-mile Susan Komen walk. Once and done is fine, thank you very much. But I did it. And at the end of that, I realized that, you know, you can put your mind to just about anything and do it, because walking 60 miles is not my idea of a good time. But I did it. And I think that's probably me in a nutshell.
Yeah.
You've accomplished a lot.
I've been busy.
Yeah.
But I've loved it.
And you need to teach me your time management.
No, you don't. Trust me on that one. Crisis management is a good way to do it. You make a list, and when it starts getting closer to the deadlines, you go, gotta get that one done.
That's how we are. We're very deadline oriented, so it's like it almost doesn't matter until it's closer to the deadline. Then I work best under pressure. So.
Yeah.
As long as you know what you've got to do, as opposed to those who have the flashes that come up and go. But you know, the flashes are very important too, because if you can't, this position is an open seat. I had absolutely no plans at this point in my life to run for an office. But it's like, this is something that I'd always thought about, and I've been very passionate to support the community, and I'm so disgusted with what's going on that the stars aligned, and I said, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Why not me?
Why not? Why not? Yeah, exactly. Why not you?
So that's why I'm here.
So when did you first get involved in politics? So you just said that you were always active and aware and supporting the community, but when did that political awakening? When did you get woke, as they've been saying?
Awoke?
Yeah, woke.
I was living down in Houston during the AIDS crisis, and I had a number of friends that passed from AIDS, and they started doing some fundraisers, and they said, you know, you'd be a really good spokesperson, because you just like are so acceptable and you're so intelligent. And I'm sort of sitting there going, I'm not quite sure what you're saying, but I care about these people, and I care about all people. I don't care about color. I don't care about economic status. It's, who are you? What do you have to bring to the table? Why is this important? And that's kind of the way I've started a lot of the things that I do, is, why is this important? What is the why? And then we moved up to Pennsylvania from Northern Virginia. I was a Beltway bandit down in Virginia, and when we started having kids, we moved up here so that I could stay home and work with them. And a flyer came home with the first grader's backpack, and it was about an educational presentation, and I went and sat there and asked some questions, and they went, who are you? And I kind of sat there and went, I'm new to the neighborhood, and they went, yeah. And the next thing I knew, I was invited to apply for a seat on the Eastern York School Board, because one of the members had moved. I was appointed and ended up on the school board for 17.5 years.
Wow.
Including working, I guess, about 10 years with the Lincoln Intermediate Unit 12. So the opportunities to learn negotiating skills, leadership skills, to work with budgets, which are super critical. The Lincoln Intermediate Unit covers York, Adams, and Franklin counties, so we were dealing with all the different issues that hit those three counties. And you probably were not aware of this, but Franklin County has one of the largest group of immigrants. You've got the fruit fields, so they have some tremendous needs over there that a lot of the other counties around here don't really face. So I really got some interesting exposure to immigration issues, to educational issues, certainly budgetary issues, and was the chief negotiator for some of the contracts that came out very positive for the school districts.
Yeah. So you previously have mentioned how you served in the military. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience and how you feel like it kind of prepares you to do something like this?
I went in the military when it wasn't really very popular for women to be in the military. There were a lot of career fields that were still closed. Again, I wasn't interested in medicine, so it was pretty much administration. And I ended up in accounting and finance. Oh boy. That was back when you punched cards and ran them through computers. Yeah, go back and read your history books. You'll appreciate it a little bit more. If you dropped a stack of cards,
oh my,
oh, wow.
You're going to be busy for a while putting them back in order. But it was because those fields were closed that I was probably the most frustrated. I took the Air Force Officers Qualifying Test, the AFOQT, to try to get a commission, and this was a KC-135 tanker unit up in Maine. And they're looking at my scores, and they're looking at me, and they're looking at my scores, and I said, what's wrong? And they said, you've got higher scores than the last 3 guys that we sent to pilot training, but we can't send you because you're female. Think about that. You've been told you have the qualifications, you have the knowledge, you have the skills, you have the ability.
Not even that you have the ability, that you have more than the ability, yeah.
But you can't go because you're a girl. And that was really frustrating for me because I'm like, why should that be a disqualifier?
Yeah.
You know, I don't understand. And it was a very long process to be in the military to try to understand. But it was also very cool in that I got to watch those changes happen within the military. And to see opportunities open up for young women that didn't exist for me. I've always been very patriotic. My father, when I was growing up, worked for Boeing, and I lived not too far from McConnell Air Force Base, so we had a lot of military people around us. We were a very proud community, and it just seemed very natural to do those kinds of things. I did embassy support in Central and South America as well as Europe. I've traveled a great deal thanks to the military that I probably never would have gotten to, and I actually met my husband through the military. But it was a lot of learning opportunities, and the other thing it gave me was a chance to learn more leadership skills, to be able to work with a diverse group, because again, I'm working with predominantly men. I may be one of 5 in a group of about 1,200, but I still have to get my job done. And they quickly realized that I wasn't there to be silly. I wasn't there to be, just there. I was there to get a job done. And I think I really got a lot of respect, and I learned that by being professional and maintaining that professional distance, that I could actually get a lot done. And I got a very good reputation for being a hard worker. And that carried over into my civilian world, because then I started having all those military connections. And that's exactly what women were losing by not being able to get into some of these jobs, because you build those connections, and we call it networking now. The military world is very connected. And when I got up to Virginia, I was trying to get a job, and I ran into somebody who had worked with the military and said, oh, we'll go over and talk to those people because they're into the Air Force side. Went over and talked to them, and they just took me in. They said, okay, we can connect you here, we can connect you here, and we can connect you here. And it truly just opened doors that the men have always experienced through their military service. I was like, this is exactly what they're talking about. That ability to make those connections, to be able to get ahead in life and to do better in your career.
I'm glad we made progress, but there's still a lot more to be made in that, women having the same equal opportunity.
Worldwide.
Yeah, worldwide. So what made you decide to run for Senate?
First and foremost, I'm very proud to be an American. I am a patriot. I served in the military. My husband was in the military. His father was in the military. Our middle son is in the military. So service to country is very, very big in our life, in our family. My parents were survivors of the Depression. We never had a lot, but anything you needed, if they had a chance, they would help you. And that's the way the world used to be, instead of this, you know, I, me, and that's not the world that I want to see. I really want to see community be developed again. I want to see people understand that the government is a support. It is not supposed to be carrying everybody. It is not supposed to be punished, punishing people as well. Giving back is important, and I think that the leadership we have now in the legislature is poor at best. I have firsthand experience of dealing with the representation that we've had for my particular area of Lower Windsor Township. They've done nothing for the community. You know, they send out their newsletters when it's time to get reelected so that they've got face time, but other than that, you never see them.
Yeah.
And as a school board director, it was very frustrating because I was told, well, once we get the governor's seat and once we get, you know, we've already got the legislature, things will change. And I confronted all of them absolutely face to face and said, you lied to me, didn't you? And they just looked at me and they said, well, you have to understand. I said, no, I don't have to understand. You control the legislature. You control the governor, you know, the governor's seat. You're doing nothing. I'm tired of the people of Pennsylvania having to put up with nothing getting done.
Yeah, certainly. What are your thoughts on legalizing recreational marijuana in Pennsylvania?
I really want to understand the nuances of the law in Pennsylvania because I went through and did some research on the history, and one of the issues that we're going to run into, and I've already seen it happen in other states, is you've got the federal law that's prohibiting the use of marijuana. You've got a state law that has liberalized it. Any employer who is dealing with a federal contract must test for drugs. It must be a drug-free environment. Our son lost his job because he was living in a state that allowed recreational use of marijuana, but he was working with somebody that had a federal contract. He got fired. I have another friend who's a human resources professional at, it's up near Allentown, and they're looking for welders. Experienced welders make $30 to $40 an hour. They had 6 openings. They found 7 candidates, brought them all in, drug tested them, they all failed.
Yeah.
And they're like, you know, it's not fair to put people in a jeopardy position, so those two pieces have to be reconciled one way or another.
Yeah.
So that we don't put our constituents at risk. And that's, I think, the biggest thing that's keeping me from being supportive.
But if things were different, you would be supportive?
I don't have a problem with it.
Okay.
I think there has to be enough controls to where, much like alcohol, we've got to be concerned about the use of children because the whole brain development is different. Y'all are young enough that I can make that comment. You understand what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
But I want there to be controls.
Yeah.
Because we've already had enough of an issue like with the opioid issues that we've got going on right now. I don't want that same thing with marijuana.
Yeah.
So that's just my biggest concern.
Yeah. It's a legitimate concern,
Of
absolutely.
course.
So, what is your one piece of advice for the millennial generation? Just one.
Do not be intellectually lazy.
I like that.
That's a great one.
I have seen too many students, since I teach, who go, oh, I'll just whip up my phone and Google it, and now I've got the answer. Well, there may be 20 answers. Read all 20 of them. Think about it. Oh my gosh, what a novel concept. Think. And then do some discussion. You know, what did you find and what do you think? What did you find and what do you think? And then there's that.
We're losing that with that
We
instant answer. It's just, you know, you found the answer that you
the answer.
Exactly.
And I'm sitting there going, no.
And that's probably why we have so many issues with having these discussions as a country, especially. It's like we don't, when we're kids, we don't have open discussions anymore. We kind of just look for the instant gratification that is the answer, and we don't talk about things.
Yeah.
Or you think the first one is the only one. And I think that's how a number of people got...
Just because it's the first search result on Google doesn't make it the right answer.
And we've already seen what happens with that.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
You can put in your own algorithms and get things to pop up first. You can pay a little more money and get your ad to pop up first.
Yeah.
Do you really want to short circuit your life and your ability to think and have those intellectual conversations to say, well, but what about that? And I really see a lot of the younger generation just going, well, I read it on the internet, so it must be true.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, please. So don't be intellectually lazy. Think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to other people about it. Test out your theories. I'm like a little kid sometimes. I go, why do you think that? How did you get there? And they look at me like, you're annoying. And I'm like, no, I'm trying to teach you something.
Yeah,
Trying to
make
pick
you
and
think.
prove, you know what I mean?
To see if there's any roots to what you're claiming.
Yeah.
Where does it come from? Did you just read it and so you're just respouting it?
Mm-hmm.
Too many people do that, and you see where it's gotten us.
It's like real life retweeting or something.
Yeah.
With no thought.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's really scary because, you know, I don't claim to be an intellectual genius, but I've learned so much by reading and thinking and looking around and watching and questioning. And I don't mean questioning to be rude or obnoxious, but I want to understand.
Yeah.
Somebody will say something. Where did you get that? How did you find out about that? And I've had some people who have been very offended. Don't you trust me? Well, it has nothing to do with trust. It has to do with I want to understand.
Yeah.
And how can you understand if you don't ask questions? At which point most people just go, oh.
Awkward pause.
Awkward. I actually had one student who looked at me one time and she goes, do you know what the biggest problem with your class is? I thought she was kidding. She looks at me and very indignantly kind of like throws her hair back and goes, you expect us to think. And I sort of laughed and I looked at her, she's dead serious. And I went, wow.
Yeah, it's a sad perception to have.
What does that do for our next generation?
It's kind of frightening, which is how we got here. We're sick of that. You saw it on Facebook, so it must be true. And
Oh my stars. You just kind of sit there sometime and go, wow, if you ever even stop for 1 millisecond to think about that, do you really think it could possibly be true? And they look at you and they go, well, of course it is. And then later you just go, done. Just done.
Are these kids at Penn State?
I've had those conversations. I've had them in public conversations. This is not
Like college-aged kids, though?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, I've had some older people who
I'm not looking forward to
done that
going
as well.
back to school in the fall or winter.
Not everyone's like that, Shade. You'll be okay.
And they're not. They truly aren't. But there are a few, and you just sort of sit there sometime and go, well, and what is it you plan on doing? And you're going, please don't be teaching. Please don't be teaching. Do something that will keep you away from influencing other people. Sorry.
So what is your favorite book?
I'm currently reading Start With Why. How great
That's a good one
leaders
for her.
inspire everyone to take action.
Wait, who's that
Did you
by?
write it?
Because I'm pretty sure I've read that.
Simon Sinek.
I have read that. That's a good book.
Yes, it is. I literally, why is my favorite word.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you believe that? Why are you doing that? Why do you want to run for Senate? Why are you putting yourself out there? Why are you putting yourself into a position that you could possibly be destroyed, find yourself under pressure, find yourself just really questioning your own sanity? And the answer that I come back to is because I believe I have so much to offer.
Mm-hmm.
I've got, a good center that says, let me listen to both sides and see what's going to work. How can we do what's in the best interest of the greater population? Mm-hmm. It's not about me. It's about helping others. It's about reaching out and saying, there's a bridge there. Let's all go across. Mm-hmm. It's not about leaving people behind. It's not about winners and losers. It's about we can all win. We can all be successful. There doesn't have to be this great chasm opening up that says, you have to lose so she can win.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. This is the country of the greatest resources, probably in the world, and we're acting like we haven't had the last slice of bread.
That's a great way to put it.
It's scary, and we've got to get people to get off that partisan position of, if I give you an inch, that means I've lost an inch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Completely agree.
No, that means that we've both gained a little bit.
Compromise.
I wasn't even going to use that word.
That's an
Because
ugly word
there's
to
too
them.
many people who go, compromise means everybody loses.
Yeah.
Well, no, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Compromise means you're finding the best solution for the greater good. And that's what I've always tried to do. And it doesn't seem like anybody knows how to do that anymore.
It's a
And
foreign
I've
concept.
done it in settings that were rather acrimonious and been fairly successful. And I think this would be a good opportunity to try it again. And, you know, I don't think I could change the world. But you know, when one
Change the Commonwealth.
when one pebble falls into a body of water,
Yeah, that is our country.
The ripple effect, yeah.
the ripple effect can be tremendous.
Yeah.
I'm all for being a pebble.
So, who is someone you credit for taking this path of leadership in life?
There's two.
Okay.
The
We'll
first-
let her have an extra one.
All right. Well, you're stuck. The first one is my mother. And she has been gone now for 35 years. So she's missed most of my really crazy life. But she's always there because she was the first person who said, you know, you are who you choose to be. And it's not just being female, it's also being positive, it's also being open-minded. There's so many other facets to the person other than just being male or female. And those should not be considered barriers, they should not be considered anything other than just one piece. You know, diamonds are faceted so that they'll show off all the beauty. People are like that too. They've got many facets, and sometimes you have to stop and give them a chance to sparkle. A little bit of polishing, a little bit of edging, spectacular. And I've seen students be that way as well. The real quiet ones that you simply sat there and said, it's okay. You know, we'll move on, but we'll come back. You're not off the hook. And I watch them bloom. I mean, that's why I love teaching, is watching people come to that aha moment and going, I never knew I could do that.
Yeah.
The second person would be Dr. Susan Weeks Lineberger, who was the superintendent at Eastern York School District when I first went on the board. She was the assistant superintendent then. She was the very first woman that I ever saw who was sophisticated, educated, a professional. I mean, she showed me how it could look, for lack of a better phrase, and how to handle people and how to handle stress and how to do the things that were important to be able to get the district from point A to point B or B to C. And just having somebody to emulate, to see be successful is so critical for young women. And I actually found a study that Forbes wrote about in 2012 about a study that was done, believe it or not, in West Bengal section of India. And what they did was they said, okay, we have some communities that have some very strong established female leaders, and we have some other communities that don't have that kind of female leadership available. And they started looking at the young women and the parents' attitudes towards education and women's success. And they found that the communities that had strong established women leaders, the aspirations of the girls and of the girls' families were so much greater. That whole gender gap all but vanished.
Wow.
How fabulous is that? And then they would go to the communities that didn't have that kind of image to look up to, or that kind of a role model. And there were huge gender gaps, and there were lower expectations for the young ladies and for the young women and for the families of women.
the bar is set lower for the whole community if you think of you, because
Exactly.
Because imagine if the other 51% is contributing and has
Exactly.
the opportunity to do so.
In
Get so much more
Pennsylvania,
done.
I did my research on women's pathways to the state legislatures of Pennsylvania and Maryland, and at that time, which was 10 years ago, Pennsylvania ranked 48th for women's representation in the legislature. We're now up to 38th. Well, let's see how many more women we could get into the legislature so that it became common
Yeah.
to expect that women could be in leadership positions, cracking that glass ceiling, if you will, of the legislature.
Yeah.
Because then it becomes normal. And you aren't going to be walking up to people going, so how does it feel to be a male reporter? Does anybody ever say that?
No.
But they say, so how does it feel to be a female legislator?
Or what are you wearing?
Yeah.
Tell me
Did
about
you
your
see
dress.
her? They talked about Nancy Pelosi did it yesterday for 8 hours in 4-inch heels.
I saw that too. Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself,
What you're focusing on is the heels.
oh my gosh,
Not the
you're
message.
missing the message. So we need to get people to where the fact that somebody is a legislator is what's important. What are their views? What are their positions? As opposed to, that wasn't a good color on her. She wore pants. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And I want to be one of those people that says, you could do it too.
And I don't think this district's ever been represented by a woman. I don't think, if I remember correctly from my research. I think
I don't believe it has.
so. You would be shattering glass ceiling.
I would love to. And I would love to be the first to say, you know, as many young people who want to come up, male, female, I don't care what culture you're from, come look. No offense, we've seen enough white guys at the legislature.
I know.
We really need to get more voices at the table, more experiences, more backgrounds. I'm from Kansas, for heaven's sakes. Do you know how many people know somebody from Kansas?
I don't think I actually do until now.
Until now.
Now I do.
Yeah, I don't
So I
think
bring a
either.
different perspective.
Yeah, absolutely.
And those voices and those thought processes are all different for all of us because of our experiences. And I really believe that I've got a lot to offer to the legislature, and I'd like a chance to try.
Absolutely.
If people would like to get involved with your campaign or help out or volunteer for you, how can they do so?
I welcome any help, and we do have, I'm not saying it's like fully fleshed out, but it exists. We do have a website. It's higginspa2018.com.
Okay.
And if they have any questions, it can be sent to info@higginspa2018. We're trying to keep this simple. I do have a Facebook that is Judith A. Higgins. And we do have a PAC, so if anybody wants to make a donation to help pay for all the paper that is invariably going to have to be generated.
Yeah.
And we are, by the way, trying to keep everything as local as we can, and we are trying to use union printers so that we can support those people that we feel have best supported the Democratic Party as well.
I love that.
Yeah.
So that's our goal, and that's what we're shooting for. So donations can be sent to donate@higginspa2018.com as well.
Okay, and then we'll put links and the email address and everything
Awesome.
with the video so that people can easily click it.
Thank you, and that's why that's on a separate piece of paper, so that I can hand it to you.
Thank you so much.
Make it efficient.
What are these?
I'm going downtown to pick up petitions tonight, and to pick up walk sheets.
Are you headed to the party office?
Yes.
That's such a theme. With everyone, it stops here before they go to the party office.
Yes. Well, they're going to be, I guess, doing a kickoff on Tuesday, because that's when you can first start signing petitions.
Yeah.
But I teach on Tuesday night, so Brandy Boswell will be down there. Unfortunately, my husband has to go to work, or he would be down there as well. But I just wanted to give people a quick, on Tuesday, May 15th, vote Judith Higgins, military veteran, small business owner, proven leader, fiscal conservative, pro-education. So if I can get people to at least think about signing my petition to get me on the ballot so that we can then have some discussion and really see democracy at its finest hour, I'd really appreciate it very much.